Well, I got the hiccups, but I'm still making this video. Freedom in life and relationships. It would be strange if you don't highly value freedom as a man. It would actually be painful. Or if you realize there's a different level of freedom you want and you're not quite there, you're maybe far away, I would actually say it like hurts. First I want to talk about relationships and then we'll get into more life. I remember I was in a relationship, this is dating myself, I'm 41, sorry, you're just gonna have to go through this with me. I was 41 then, no, I'm 41 now rather. I was 29. And I remember I wanted this immature freedom. And when a coach I was working with at the time told me that, he didn't say it that way. I just knew it was true, but I was just too fucking stubborn to listen. And I was like, I just need the freedom to do what I want, to go where I want. So I wasn't traveling back then, so it wasn't like there was really anywhere to go. Like, to what, go to Whole Foods or something? Go to the gym, excuse me. And yeah, I was wanting freedom, and it was just this, like a 14-year-old boy. Excuse me. I'll never forget what the guy said to me. And he said, what if you had the freedom to be yourself fully? What if you had the freedom to share what you were feeling on your heart? And when he said that, it really hit me. And I, at the same time, tried to dismiss it. Like, that's stupid. Excuse me. Fuck. You know, this and that. Sometimes inspired energy comes, and this is one of those times. I was not planning on doing any content this weekend, so you are getting the burps with the content. That's a first for a video as far as I remember. But it made me think about, and I've lived my life abroad for the last 10 years. I've met a lot of people that live in one country, live in 4 countries, constantly traveling. And I can see many of guys that have been like me. I've been mainly just in Medellin, Colombia, for the last decade. I'm just gonna keep hiccuping and just continuing. Because obviously, you know, I'm excusing myself, and then it's interrupting the flow that much more to say excuse me after each burp. This is a new one. But yeah, I was just thinking about a friend of mine, someone I know, who lives in America, makes amazing money, has a beautiful mission, has kids, and he's someone, I don't have kids yet, that I look at as like, that's a really awesome family freedom. You go, well, they can't travel, they can't go to Italy tomorrow. Maybe they can, I don't know. Depending how your age of your kids or how hard it is or what you actually want your lifestyle to be. But it made me think about how as guys we confuse freedom. Man, I used to sleep around a lot. Like, I didn't lie about it, which is unusual. I wouldn't own it with as much conviction as I am like communicating you today. I was kind of wimpy, strong enough to tell the truth, and honest. And I would tell women, hey, I'm dating 6 other women. I'm sleeping with all of them. I'm not looking for anything serious. And surprisingly, that worked enough of the time. I think it was so refreshing, especially in Latin America, where there's a lot of infidelity, to just go, oh, this guy's actually just telling the truth. Like, this is kind of weird, and he's kind of different, huh? I remember thinking that felt like freedom. And I remember getting to a point of behaving kind of like that with 5, 6 women after, I don't know if it was a few months or 6 months. And I was just like, this sucks. There's a really good book, and this is on my mind this morning too. Dan Bilzerian has a book, which is actually a pretty good person to listen to, surprisingly. If you haven't thought of what it would be like to be Dan Blazarian or Hugh Hefner, you haven't given yourself that mental fantasy, you're probably kind of suppressing yourself, or you're lying to yourself, or you're just a lot older or something. Like, the epitome of the 15-year-old fantasy would be Dan Blazarian's lifestyle. When you read his book, and now since the book, he's come out as a sex addict, or a former sex addict, or whatever he calls it, and is like actually saying monogamy is a much better fit, which is hilarious. If you think of like my joke, I had this come to me during a mushroom ceremony once. What if Dan Blazarian could be one of the greatest spiritual teachers on planet Earth by getting married, having a couple kids, and sharing what he learned? I'm like, that actually, I don't know if this is just the mushrooms, but like that actually could be. Like, what a weird thought. Why I bring him up, because that's the epitome of freedom. Money, cars, houses, cool guns, hot chicks with cool guns just because it's cool, tons of sex, a yacht that's a couple 100 feet long with, a dozen girls that you could sleep with. And he says it's a bottomless pit. To do my best to quote him, blowing money, drugs, and women for the sake of women are a bottomless pit. But it's interesting for us as guys, what do we really think freedom is? And freedom in life or lifestyle, you can use some of the Dan Blazarian example about sex, but I've seen a lot of guys that travel the world, and maybe they go through a nomadic phase. Maybe it kind of goes up and down. I can think of one of my friends, he's done the nomadic thing the last 6 years, and he picked a random country that no one goes to. I don't even remember which one it is, in Latin America. Because I'm like, why are you going there? He's like, I just feel called, like it's time to put down roots. Met a girl. So I would invite you to consider, what really is freedom to you? I redid my values, which I redo once a year recently, and freedom is on the top, not as high as it used to be, and that's for good measure. But it's redefining what those things mean to me, even though I know they get kind of like a little facelift each year. And have a client coming in next weekend, spending the whole weekend doing his values. What does freedom mean to you? Freedom for me used to mean canceling plans, going on this adventure on a Friday night, but then a better adventure came up on a Friday night. This is like 10 years ago, so I'd be kind of flaky, like, oh, I committed to this, but this is gonna be more fun. Impulsive, childlike. There's a big discrepancy between men and women in their ages, where I would say largely, with rare exception, and I'm pretty hard on this, if a woman is 37 and she's dating a 30-year-old dude, it's probably not going to go that well for her. It could, but generally, in what I see and how we mature, men mature differently or slower unless they choose to. Having just an honest, loving confrontation with what freedom means to you and what you really want has been a big part of it. I become more monogamous the older I get. As someone who, if you asked me 5 years ago, I wanted 3 Colombian wives, 10 kids, living in a finca, bisexual, this was like my plan. Honest to God. And the more, I had a relationship a couple years ago for a year. I had a relationship recently that just ended. And it just shows me how much more I crave freedom in monogamy and in being myself and telling the truth and being emotionally available. Not being emotionally messy, that's different. We're trying to navigate the path of our emotions as men. It can initially show up emotionally messy because we don't have a reference. But what does freedom really look like to you? What is relationship freedom, lifestyle freedom, sexual freedom, financial freedom, freedom in your body? I had a hernia 18 months ago. I can tell you I did not feel free in my body. A lot of us as men are chasing an illusion of freedom, And just like Dan Blazarian, it can be a bottomless pit. What's nice about someone like Dan Blazarian is it can be so intense that it forces you faster into bottoming out. One of the biggest plagues for guys, especially if they're entrepreneurs, achievers, that they can afford it and they can kind of keep going. I guarantee, as someone who lives in Medellin, is moving to Miami soon, I guarantee with those two specific cultures, dudes in Miami and Medellin, especially foreign dudes in Medellin, there will be dudes that are 80 years old on TRT and doing coke and taking Cialis. And they'll have told themselves and conditioned themselves that's a story of them being free. And there's going to be other people that go, oh, maybe I was too crazy and wild of a motherfucker. Maybe there's something more to life. And by them really having an honest look at themselves of who they are in their heart, picking a woman, picking a family, being themselves authentically, being open in a relationship, not an open relationship, but being open in themselves and what they can receive and what they can communicate with a partner. And that will be freedom.